Hey friends, this episode of the Queens of Spice podcast covers a dark romance book called Does It Hurt by H.D. Carlton, which comes with its own set of disclaimers. This episode contains graphic violence, mentions of rape, sexual assault, explicit sexual situations, incest, and suicide. These are some heavy topics, folks, so please take care. Welcome to the Queens of Spice podcast. I'm Rargi, Rachel, Rargachu. I'm a Pokemon master. I'm here with my two BFFs, Ash and Jack.
Hi. Hello.
Welcome. Thank you for joining me. We are here today.
She drove me here, so I don't thanks for coming. Thanks for picking me up.
Hey, thanks for letting me kidnap you and bringing you to Jacqueline's home.
Thank you for taking me.
Yeah, anytime. So today we are talking about a very special book that is near and dear to Ashton's heart.
Is it? Is it what?
Uncle Jay!
Uncle Jesse.
It is neither of those, as a matter of
Daddy
fact.
Jesse. Right, Jesse? You know what I'm talking about.
I don't think he does. He does now, though.
We just appreciate your existence. Thank you.
Hi, Jesse. I'm sorry. Whatever happened just happened.
So we're talking about Shark Daddy. The book is actually called Does It Hurt by H.D. Carlton. We call it Shark Daddy because of one in particular character in this book named Enzo.
Daddy Enzo.
We call him Daddy Enzo.
Daddy Shark Enzo. Enzo Shark Daddy.
So this book was published in July of 2022, so fairly recently. This is the same author who I think a lot of people are familiar with from Haunting Adeline.
And Hunting Adeline.
Which is a series.
Duology.
It was called the Cat and Mouse series, I think. That's what people were calling it anyway.
Yeah.
Oh my God, do they get to play the parachute thing that you get to do on field day?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
You know what I'm talking about.
He's definitely not a stalker who leaves shit in her house.
Ew, literal shit?
No, like roses.
Oh,
He leaves
okay.
roses in her house.
That's better.
A little better than literal shit.
I mean, I would argue that roses decompose and turn into shit.
Turn into compost.
That's shit. That's like
Anyway.
that's plant shit.
Plant shit.
Anyway, so Shark Daddy, Does It Hurt by H.D. Carlton. Ever since Sawyer ran from her abusive brother, desperate to escape with only the clothes on her back, she's only ever walked in stolen shoes. She was searching for the meaning of life in faceless men, and they were all so forgettable until she came along, Enzo Vitale. An enigmatic man who will ever only love the deep sea, or rather the predators that inhabit it. Turns out he's not so different from the monsters that he feeds. He lured Sawyer into the boat, seeking vengeance for a crime of stealing his identity. She had realized his intentions and that a massive storm would leave them shipwrecked. She would never have, if she realized this, she would never have followed him. Now they're seeking refuge in a decrepit lighthouse, a pair who both loathe and crave each other. Enzo may want to hurt Sawyer, but the old caretaker of the abandoned island may have intentions much more sinister. Dun dun dun.
I love how
The
it
lighthouse keeper?
Yeah.
I love how it just basically outlines the first half of the book, and then it's like
It's hardly even half Ash. It's like
a third of the book,
If
not
that,
even.
yeah,
and
yeah.
then it's like, and now you're on your own.
oh, it's wild. So like
Wait.
what's that?
Do you
Is
wanna do
this
a shot?
episode sponsored by any delicious shots?
Jack picked the shot this week, and my parameters for that was something that reminds you of the ocean. And so we're shooting peppermint because it's minty and fresh.
So fresh and so clean.
Thanks, Outcast. Hey, yeah.
Cheers. Cheers.
Cheers, bitches.
Oh, it's so minty. It's like the best kind of mint, though. It's like vanilla mint.
Ooh, it's like the ocean.
Nope.
Not at all.
It's not at all like the ocean, actually. The ocean's gross and icky and has sharks in it.
Rachel doesn't like anything nature.
That's not true. I like mountains.
What's your favorite mountain?
Did you y'all know that that's a question you're supposed to have asked your significant other whilst dating?
If you don't know your significant other's favorite mountain, do you really know your significant other?
I mean, go ask your significant other right now what their favorite mountain is. And if they have an answer, then okay. If they don't, then think about it.
And Jacqueline and I just stare at Rachel.
Yeah, why do you guys not have a favorite mountain?
Vesuvius. I already told you
Oh,
that
yeah,
because
good call.
it killed a bunch of shit.
Because it explodes stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jack,
I
do you
mean,
have a
it's
favorite
dead.
mountain?
Mount Olympus.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
I'm changing my answer. I like that mountain.
Mount Olympus?
Yeah.
That's fair. 100%.
There are gods.
What's
up there.
yours, Rachel?
Oh, I'm a big fan of the Three Sisters at NBC. So this book is framed around Enzo and Sawyer. Sawyer, like I said in the intro, she is like fleeing the States at the beginning of this book for another country because she's trying to get away from kind of her background, her history, the stuff's going on.
Bad things happen.
Bad things happen to her, and she's trying to run away and escape from that. So she finds herself in Australia in a place called Port Valen? Sure.
Jacqueline, you live down that area. Do you know what it's called?
No.
Yeah, you live in Australia. You probably know all of it, right? It's
Yes.
just little.
And I've met exactly who you're thinking I met.
Oh, perfect. Excellent. Okay, first she meets her BFF.
Oh, the guy who gives her the tattoo?
Yeah, his name is Simon. So Simon gives her a Tabori tattoo at a bus stop. And it says, "Fuck you," which is great. Which pretty much sums Sawyer up to some degree, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's very much like a kind of a meek, broken down individual, but as soon as she like started going off her own to protect herself and like stealing other people's identity, she becomes a pretty like charismatic character, I would say.
I think once she starts to get comfortable with herself.
Yeah, and I mean, comfort with herself is kind of subjective in this way.
Or to her surroundings, because Lord knows those shift a lot.
I would,
Or
yeah.
has she been master dating?
No,
No.
quite the opposite. Actually, she keeps looking for almost not quite sugar daddies, but men who have androgynous names, who have a lot of money, whose
Like
identity
her
she can
own,
steal.
Sawyer.
That's the point. She steals their
Okay.
identities and then lives off their monies.
And I mean, she kind of does it. I don't know. The book explains her doing it in like the least offensive way possible, kind of, where like she only takes what she needs, sort of thing. She doesn't like.
It's like
get
the
a credit-
Robin Hood syndrome. Like, take from the rich, give to the needy.
Give to myself.
Yeah, but she's pretty neat. I mean,
mean-
but she gets the credit card under Enzo's name.
Yeah. So the way she meets Enzo, she's in the. She is in a bar and she, he sits down and whatever chats her up.
But
and
she doesn't want. Like he approaches her. She doesn't want to take his identity. It's more a matter of like.
He forces it upon her.
Yeah, no.
I'm gonna say this. I wrote this note down because it's very important to me. The very first thing that Sawyer says to Enzo in that bar is, "Nope, I could get pregnant just looking at you. Go away."
And I'm pretty sure I screenshotted that and sent it to the group chat.
It wouldn't surprise me because I mean that's pretty compelling first line between characters.
That is.
Yeah.
And you can picture a guy that you would say that to, I feel like.
Oh yeah,
Me personally, or everybody could.
Just you as in
The general you.
The general you.
the royal you,
Yeah,
The
Jensen
me
Eccles.
and Jensen Ackles. Hell yeah. Right. So she meets Enzo. They have an amazing, wonderful romp underneath the
An
waterfall.
ocean? Or waterfall. Under the ocean. Under the sea.
They have a wonderful romp under the waterfall.
Yes.
And
He licks her butthole. We
he-
made sure that everybody knows that.
he licks her butthole because sometimes
Under the water.
Sometimes it gets asked if butt stuff happens, and I need to be prepared, so I put it in
Did
the
she
notes.
say it gets asked or asked?
Also, yes.
Yes. And
Both of those
I
things.
love how I'm usually the one that brings up the butt stuff.
Well, I'm trying to anticipate your needs, Ashton, because sometimes you need to talk about butt stuff.
Nobody can anticipate my needs because I don't even know what my fucking needs are. I can't put that over there. You can read that.
That was her notes.
Wolf.
I don't get the notes.
So,
Dead parents, no notes. Fuck my life.
This devolved real fast.
so after they're like, the romp in the waterfall, and they go home together, and
Who's home?
they go back to Enzo's because she is living in Senile Susie, which is a butter yellow Volkswagen van that is parked
Oh.
outside somewhere.
But like I said, he approaches her, and
Yes.
like she had no intention, but also I don't think he intended it to go that far either, did he? Because it was all like, you looked really sad and I wanted to make you feel better because I'm that guy. And then
I mean, this whole book is
surprise sex.
Yes. Oh my God, you're so naive. I thought that was me that was the naive one.
Surprise sex?
surprise. That's the thing. I mean, this is like a, I don't know, like an insta-lust kind of thing. Like they're just hooking up. Like it's not a big deal.
Enemies to lovers.
Okay, so what happens after that is that she breaks into his desk and finds his like personal information, takes a credit card out in his name,
Yes.
is never seen again, blah blah blah, that whole thing.
Quote, unquote.
She is still around, and that's when they run into each other again because Enzo found out that she had done this, and so he like. But he didn't like let her know that he knew.
He was like obsessing about it.
He was obsessing about her.
Yeah.
And he was obsessing about this.
Because they agreed that it would only going to happen once. They were never going to see each other again. And that was a whole big part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But now, since they share the same identity, they kind of have to see each other.
She sees him every time she looks in the mirror.
Every time she touches her back pocket. Wink. That's where she keeps the credit card, by the way. That's a throwback to the book. So he comes across her on the beach one day when she's, chilling out or whatever. And he's like, oh, hey, it's you. Long time no see. Do you want to come on my boat with me to go look at sharks?
And he lures her with the promise of a kiss because no
Totally.
woman has ever deserved that level of intimacy from him.
Well, and they done it a shit tons of time. And he never kissed her
He
one
doesn't
time.
kiss people.
He doesn't kiss
isn't
people.
that like a hooker thing? You're not allowed to kiss them?
You don't kiss a hooker?
I
Or
don't-
strippers. I don't know. I thought that was the thing.
It could be both.
I don't know.
This is the thing. All the books that we read about strippers, they end up in relationships with people they obviously kiss. So I don't know.
I don't remember how Pretty Women worked. Did she kiss him?
Oh, I don't know. I've never seen it.
Was she a stripper?
She a prostitute, wasn't she?
Yeah, wasn't she a lady of the evening?
Yeah.
So he lures her onto the boat, and then they go off into the ocean. And so Ash, what happens after that? I'm trying to remember. Something happens. What was it?
Oh, God.
Oh, 1 second. We should precursor that with some trigger warnings.
Oh, yeah. Do we still do those, or do you do them separately?
There's-
Rachel does them at the beginning.
I do at the beginning, but this is extra triggery because there's some non-consent going on.
It's assault. It's there's sexual assault.
It's sexual assault.
It's assault in general. It's not just sexual assault. It's just assault in general. Period. There's no way around it. It's not dubious consent. Well, yeah.
It's considered non-consent.
Yeah.
And
well, yeah.
this is a dark romance book, so this comes up more than once,
Yeah.
is what I'll say. So if you're going to read this book, just FYI, there's some extra stuff in here that you might want to research before you go into it.
But she wanted her butthole licked.
Yes,
under the
that part was all
waterfall?
consensual.
It was consensual, but
It was
licking, yes.
consensual up until this point.
Up until this point, Ashton's going to describe.
And I don't know what it says about me that I lost my shit over this point. Because let it be said, I found this book on TikTok. And the reason I found this book on TikTok was I found it. I don't remember how I found it. But anyway, it doesn't matter. The reason I wanted to read it is because one of the things that was said was not correct. Okay, so they go out in the boat. And he's all like, you're not here to fuck me. And she's like, okay. And then they do the fuckings. After he drops chum in the water to lure the sharkies.
No, he does that first.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
They do the fucking after he does that.
Yes.
They drop the chummies.
Yep.
He drops the chummies.
The chummies. Why do you call it the chummies?
Because it's chum. That's what it's called. Chum.
Just
Chummies. He drops the chummies.
Is that like
Drop-
nummies?
dropping chummies sounds like a thing.
It's shark nummies. Leave it alone.
Nom nom nom.
Nom nom nom. Shark. Shark. So he drops the chum, and then he goes to sex her up, and he sexes her up close to the edge of the boat, so that as he's sexing her up from behind, I shall say, he shoves her head in the water, and after he bites her lip.
Yep. So she's
What?
bleeding.
So she's bleeding and
He's like-
drowning at the same time?
No, she's not drowning. She's just scared.
Well,
I
she
mean-
kind of is if her head's under the water.
No, but I mean, you can put your face in the water. It doesn't mean you're drowning. It just means your face is in the water.
At
But
what
if
point
your
are you
face-
drowning?
When you panic and you can't breathe.
Okay,
Which
so-
is what happens when someone shoves your face underwater. My God. Okay, so I have a question. It's about the chummies, the shark nom nommies.
Yep.
So is chum its own thing? Like, is chum a type of fish? Or is chum like chopped up ocean creatures that are just called chum?
It's just chopped up fish.
As far as I know, it's just chopped up pieces of fish.
It's fish. Just
Yeah,
chopped fishy.
it's a term for a blanket term for that.
Yeah.
Because it's like hot dog. You know, it's a bunch of.
It's
whatever.
kind of like what you feed pigs, but sharks.
Yeah, shark pigs.
Yeah. Shark pig. Ooh ha ha. Boo ha.
Oh my goodness.
Shark bait. Hoo-ha.
Anyway.
Okay, so
So-
back to her being assaulted.
Yeah. So he's all like bound chicken wow wow from behind, and then he makes it look like he's gonna kiss her, and then he bites her lip real hard so she's bleeding, and then shoves her face in the water as he's fucking her from behind.
Jesus.
And then he pulls her out, and the shark comes up as she comes up, like she was anyway, and
Almost eats her.
almost eats
She
her.
became the chum.
Almost.
Almost. So when I watched TikTok, the TikTok that I watched, it was like very vague, obviously, because TikToks usually are. But it said something about her being pushed in the water. And I was like, oh, okay. Nowhere did it state that she was sexually assaulted and then had her face shoved in the water.
Yeah, that was they glossed over that.
Yeah, big time. It arguably is quite different because she can get out opposed to being in the water. But then he fucks up because he didn't look at the weather, and they're like, wow, those are some really big dark clouds. And then
So, I mean, before this too, a precursor to this, he knows that reveals to her that he knows that she stole his identity to do this.
oh, does he?
Yes, it's right before they start fucking.
Oh,
Yeah,
Angry
hence
fucking.
why that's so now it's angry fucking.
angry fucking. There's
And
a lot of angry fucking.
There's, this is
That sounds like that part was consensual. Just the biting and
Ash is glossing over it a little bit.
okay.
The way
What
it's
am I glossing over?
well, the way it's written in the book is that like this is not consensual.
None of it, including the sex part.
I would say so.
Or even the boat thing.
She consented to go into the boat with him, but she didn't consent to do anything other than that.
I would argue that her, like, the initial sexy time starting was dubious.
Yes.
In that, like, you could see how she maybe wanted it, but maybe was like coerced, making it not non-consensual, but like
It is dubious consent
Dubiously
at the
consented.
very least, is what I'll say.
it starts as dubious consent and then just plows straight into the other side.
Yeah,
so
like-
like maybe she is okay with like some iced tea, but she doesn't fully want the tea.
So this is the thing about this book in general. What I'll say is that there's not a lot of communication up front about certain things, which is what leads into the dubious consent.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of the realm we're in, where it's like, okay, they didn't discuss this stuff. They didn't give her a safe word when she was drowning. Like, so a lot of it is kind of that dubious consent where, okay, she's into it, but like, if you were two normal people doing this in a normal situation, you would have parameters.
I think at some point she's probably not super into the face in the water thing because she panics
Of course she does. But so this
later on.
when you look at this book in a whole and you go back, shut up. When you look at this book,
Are we licking it?
maybe
Ew.
butthole, only if it's clean. So
Clean your buttholes, people.
oh my god, clean your buttholes.
It's not gay if you're cleaning your butthole. It's just hygiene. Thank you, TikTok.
So when you look at this book all together, and you know how it ends, it seems more dubious consent than non-consent. But the first time you read this book and you're reading through it, it just kind of seems hot and whatever. But if you think about it a little bit longer, you're just like, oh, this makes me uncomfortable. At least for me.
And then there are the people out there who find dubious consent hot, in which case you agree on all fronts.
That's the thing. I find dubious consent and non-consent super, super hot if you're in an established relationship, which these two are not.
You like consensual, not consent.
Yeah. Well, but that's
Which
easy.
is massively different.
Yeah. But at the same time, this is like a dark romance novel. So when you're getting into it, this is what you're getting into. And that's kind of the premise of dark romance novels, is that there's some questionable fucking shit going on.
Would you say you'd have to be into emotional damage?
Emotional damage. Okay, so yeah, so they're having a heated discussion after he rails her and almost getting by a shark.
Yeah. And then the storm comes in.
And so the storm rolls in. And then all of a sudden they're trying to escape this storm and the storm eats the goddamn boat up.
Yeah.
And they're shoved overboard into the ocean.
And then he panics because he's like, shit, he didn't actually want her to die.
Right, because now he's getting a taste of his own medicine, drowning.
Tea. His own tea. He doesn't like his own tea.
He doesn't like his own tea.
Sorry, sir.
You
I don't
forced
think
it upon someone else, so now you have some.
Anyway, they wash up on an island.
It's called Raven Isle.
Yep. And
It's
there's
in-
a lighthouse.
Raven like the bird?
Yeah.
Or the name. Like, That's So Raven. Yeah.
It is named for a person in this case, not the bird.
Yeah. They wash up. And there's this whole thing, too, where he was, like, awake, but then not awake. And he's like, oh, they must have washed up together. But you find out later on that she swam him there.
And she swam for like, I think it was 58 minutes and so many seconds. Like
Yeah.
she kept track of every single second.
In her head?
Yeah.
She saved him.
Because she saved his life.
Yeah. But he's acting like a douchehole.
And so Sawyer is also not the kind of person who would use that against somebody. So she no, seriously, like she saved his life and she did not tell him until it was like they were having intimate moments basically. And
She
talking
basically, she sees herself as being this like horrible person who did this horrible thing in her
Correct.
past and all this stuff.
Sorry.
She doesn't think that she's redeemable. Like she doesn't, and so she's, which I have to say that I kind of respect in a sense, but also think she's an idiot. In that she just kind of owns it, and she owns the fact that she fucked up. And she's like, "Look, I'm not gonna try and make you feel bad for me because I did the thing." Which is commendable, and not enough people are like, hey, I did the thing. I'm sorry for doing the thing, and I will not do the thing again. I own my shit.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And then they meet Sylvester.
And then they meet Sylvester.
Okay, but why did she keep track of the exact amount of time if she wasn't just going to throw it in his face?
Oh, so the reasoning behind that was that she was basically in a panic state.
Oh, so
and-
she was trying to keep herself calm.
Do you
by
remember the
counting?
chummies in the water?
The chummies!
Yeah,
Shark,
so-
shark,
Shark.
nummies!
So he's bleeding from his head. He has a head wound, and they're trailing blood along behind them. And she sees this beacon in the distance, the beacon like on a lighthouse. And so she starts swimming towards it. And it takes her almost an hour to do that.
So she's focusing on that.
So she's trying to focus on counting as opposed to like freezing. She's freezing cold. Obviously, it's the ocean,
Right.
and like it's far. She's exhausted. She's trying to save this dude, etc.
Who hates her?
Who hates her? Who absolutely hates her?
This is like one of my favorite. First of all, enemies to lovers. Yes.
This is this is like 1,000% enemies. It's like lovers to enemies to lovers.
Yeah. But it also has like one of my favorite moments in Enemies to Lovers that is like so crystal clear to the point that they actually like spell it out in the book, where he's like, he doesn't want other people to hurt her. Nobody can hurt her but him. Like he doesn't want other people to hurt her. He doesn't want her to hurt unless he's the one doing the hurting. And then he's like, fuck. And then I'm like,
How noble.
Well,
I roll.
I mean, if you're into it.
if you're into it, you're into it.
But Sylvester is this like super sweet, adorably, just friendly old man. Rachel's cringing so hard right now. He has a peg leg.
Oh my god.
He definitely does. Doesn't he? Oh my god.
He does.
He does. Okay. I was like, holy shit, did I just... It's like the same sex centaurs all over again. Did it actually happen?
He definitely has a peg leg. Can't
But
confirm.
he's not a centaur.
I forgot to ask, are all these people?
Yes.
Yes.
So
There's
no one's
no-
actually a
No one's
shark.
actually a shark.
I will say this, for this being like, this has some paranormal vibes at one point. It
Oh,
is-
yeah.
But it is not technically a paranormal book.
No.
Is what I'll say about that.
Sylvester gives them like the rundown of the island and like all of the information about the island itself, but he's like stranded. There's not, somebody only comes once a month to bring him this food
And they
stuff.
just came by 3 days ago.
And he doesn't have a functioning radio,
doesn't, quote unquote, have a functional radio.
and he doesn't know how to get into the light.
He doesn't, they don't ever mention the beacon.
They don't.
They
Because
don't
they're
ever
looking
ask
for
him
it.
about it.
Oh.
They end up looking for it themselves because they assume there's going to be a radio at the beacon.
Yes.
But there's like this dubious point in the middle of it where they kind of like don't want to talk to him about it because
he's creepy as
he's
fuck.
creepy as fuck and like he's killed a man before and stuff like that. So
He told them that?
yes, because he mentioned the ghosts that were rattling around the
Okay,
chains.
we can't get there yet. We're not there yet. We're not at the ghost part yet.
Well, the ghost happens the first night they're there.
Yeah, but we didn't get to the part where they're at the first night there. So
It's still the daytime.
It's still the daytime. So he says that they can stay there and he'll help take care of them, blah, 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 whatever. And they can stay in this room because he has this room.
One room.
One extra room other than his room. But
But
they're not allowed to leave their room after 9 o'clock.
Or before 7, I think.
I can't remember what the before
I
time
think it's
is.
before 7 a.m.
So, and they're like, okay, well, we can just get up and go to the bathroom. He's like, no, you're locked in the room. And there's only one bed. I knew you were reaching into the exact same thing.
It's written there. Only one bed.
Only one bed. So they're staying in this room together.
Forced proximity.
And they're locked in at night, and they start hearing these like chains, like
In the on the ceiling along
like
the
dragging
upstairs.
along the ceiling.
So this is like the paranormal.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is why I wanted to explain that before Rachel went into the story about I almost said slave ship, not slave ship, prisoner ship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So these prisoners are being transferred, and the ship went down, and there was, I think, 4 of them maybe. 4 of them landed on Raven Island.
I thought there was 10, but you read it more earlier than
It was 4 that actually like survived and like were on the island, and 2 of them tried to like, get into the lighthouse and steal the supplies and all that stuff. And so he ended up killing one of them, and then one of them died of injuries, and then I think another one ended up dying of like exposure or something, or being sick, and then one of them got off the island. Now there is a book in the library or on the bookshelf about the history of Raven Isle. And in that book, they find out that is not in there. So that he made, like, down the road, they slowly piece together that,
he's a big liar.
Maybe he's lying about some stuff. So they find out about the ghosts, the chains upstairs, whatever. It's restless. They do explore the island a bit. Sawyer comes across this kind of like really cool cave.
She disappears, and Enzo can't figure out where she's going.
Okay, that's a little bit later.
Oh.
So she finds this cool cave with glowworms,
Glowy worm.
which is fun.
That's a real thing.
Yeah.
I thought it was just that toy from the 80s.
Buddy, okay. So she finds this really cool cave with glowworms.
Glowworm.
And at one point, Enzo actually does explain what they are. Because she's like, the ceiling is glowing. It's fun. And he's like, actually, they're glowworms, and they're named blah, 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 blah.
Because he's Mr. Smarty Smart.
He's a marine biologist.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Shark expert.
He's a shark expert.
And he didn't think to check the weather before he... Ugh. Anyway.
He's also a man.
All right. Ooh, it's fucking call it hour on the Queens of Spice podcast.
Shots fired.
Shots fired. Pew, 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 pew. So one of the nights that they're staying there, they look out the window and they see this woman or girl, I guess they describe her as, in the ocean. She's wearing just like a white kind of slip, and she's like in the ocean, just standing around.
Walking. Creepy.
Walking, creeping, whatever.
On water or in the water?
In the water. And so they freak out and start yelling at her, and then Sylvester comes upstairs and he's like, what the hell? Like, oh my God, why are you screaming about? And there's a girl in the water. And sure enough, they turn around, there's no one there. So they're like, oh my God, another ghost. And then they get the story from Sylvester about how his daughter Trinity hung herself. And so that's another ghost that's going on around this place.
Sylvester's a big lying liar pants.
Yeah, so Sylvester...
and he starts, like, creeping on Sawyer.
He creeps on Sawyer so bad. Now, in fairness, they do, like, creep into his room.
Yes.
Into Sylvester's room. And she found some pictures in his bedside table of his family.
Yes.
And he, some stuff happens. He comes upstairs to have a nap, and they do it in the closet. It's a whole thing.
They don't do it though. He just like manually gets her off.
He does, because she's kind of like having a bit of a panic attack, because she's pretty claustrophobic, even though she doesn't call it out really, but she is. She panics a lot when she's in small spaces.
And he tries to calm her down by getting her off.
That's what he does.
I mean, who wouldn't love to be having an anxiety attack and just be manhandled by a sexy shark guy? I mean, arguably me, because if you touch me while I'm having an anxiety attack, it doesn't go well, but...
This isn't about you. This is about Sawyer.
Yeah, clearly.
So, gosh, where do we go from here? So much stuff happens real quick. It seems like it's kind of like a slow burn in the middle of the book when like they're just kind of living day to day.
And then when they start fucking, they really start fucking.
Yeah, once they get into the like...
Oh, is that when he gets her off in bed and he's like, I'm not going to finish. I'm not going to be done until you soak me. And if you haven't soaked me, we're just going to keep going.
Yes.
I love the pause. She was like,
I'm reading one of my notes because at one point he says, I promise not to do anything that you don't beg me for.
Oh.
And that was kind of before they started doing each other a lot. Mm-hmm. And I wrote after that in my notes that he's a big friggin' liar pants because he just does her anyway.
Well, yeah, because that's like his, I don't want to say charm, but like it's the point where you start to he starts to realize, and the reader starts to realize, how he's starting to feel about her, because he doesn't want to want her, and then he just wants her.
Enzo has this big front up, and like, you know, you learn about Enzo's background, about how his mother like
He's
abandoned
sad.
him. Oh, he's got super mommy issues.
Oh, he was raised by nuns.
He was raised by nuns.
Oh my.
Which is ironic.
It is. He is
Sexy but sex
Italian.
pants. Oh yes, he's Italian.
Yeah, he's Italian. He lived in Italy, grew up in Italy, and then he moved to Australia for his college, university,
Sharks.
and sharks. He's obsessed with sharks.
Shark bait.
His father died before he was born, I think, and his mother abandoned him.
Yes. But
So
that is why no woman deserves that level of intimacy from him until Sawyer.
So he's like a stone wall of a human being. Like he doesn't do emotions.
He just fucks.
He does. And so at some point, after they discuss some things and he finds out about Sawyer's background, which is a big part of this, which was, the abuse from her brother, and, the things that he did to her growing up, and what finally, like, made her leave.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
This is some off-screen stuff that they talk about, which, again, dark romance. Her brother, like, physically and sexually assaults her.
Her twin brother.
And
her parents didn't believe her.
Yeah, and he was and so he became a cop.
And then her parents died.
Her brother did. And so she could never go to the cops to actually out him on anything because they would always protect their own.
And then her parents died and she was stuck with him.
Her parents passed away. They were in a car accident or something. And then
so she's an orphan.
Just like Jack.
Sarah. That's why she steals other people's identities, because she doesn't fucking want to be herself. And also she's poor.
Well, yeah, she's poor. She murders. No, well, okay.
Don't you tell me that she doesn't want to be other people.
No, her brother goes to assault her, and she self-defense.
So this one particular time, which she divulges this to him down the road.
Oh, we're not at that part.
We're not technically at that part yet, but that's okay. Because we can jump ahead a bit. Because it's a lot of the same stuff over and over. It's a lot of fucking. And it's a lot of like just learning.
Hot fucking.
It's a lot of just like picking apart what's going on with Sylvester.
And are they still locked in at night?
They are.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. That doesn't change.
That doesn't change until basically the end of the book.
Well, and then there's that one night they get locked in earlier because they pissed Sylvester off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go to bed now.
We're going to bed early tonight, I think. Slam, lock.
Yeah.
I think that was one of the times that he was trying to make a pass at Sawyer because he was trying to convince her to stay on the island.
Oh, Enzo like fucking hates Sylvester.
Yeah.
And he's super like confrontational with him, and Sawyer's just like, I'm going to take the path of least resistance. I'm going to be nice to him because, he's letting us have some of his stuff. And then Enzo like is like, bad man.
It is very funny to me because Sawyer is like, I've dealt with sketchy men before. This is nothing. Like, whatever. Yeah. And Enzo's like, no, you're not allowed to deal with sketchy men anymore. Murr.
Because no one's allowed to hurt you but me.
I'm the only man that's allowed to hurt you now. And your punishment is that you have to deal with me for the rest of your life. Murr.
And all of the sex I'm going to bestow upon you with my ginormous cock.
Big, thick penis.
You didn't talk about that.
What, the fact that he had a big dick?
Yeah.
That's kind of assumed that,
Do you know what, though?
Because nobody fantasizes about an average-sized penis. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, make sure your husband knows that.
My husband? Oh, he knows.
Okay, so, to escalate this whole situation, they end up, Sawyer ends up telling him her entire story, and that, like, immediately makes him flip a switch. That he's like, you're mine now, forever. I'm going to protect you forever. I'm going to kill your brother, because at this point, she hasn't told him that she actually did kill her brother.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was, like, kind of a reveal near the end.
Yeah. He's all like, I'm a big man. I'm going to protect you with my penis.
And in fairness, too, this is one of those situations where he knows she does not need protection because she has gotten this far and, like, survived on her own and, like, was very resourceful to get where she was today.
That's part of her allure to him, though, isn't it?
It really, really is, I think, because it's one of those, like, when you have one person in a relationship who's, like, very, not dominant, but very independent, hyper-independent. And then you have somebody who's, like, dominant and hyper-independent looking after that other person. And it's just, like, you're both kind of up here already, so it's already, like he's just one step above her, basically.
We haven't talked about the word that you wrote down that has a lot of ass in it.
So Enzo, he has autoassassinophilia, which
He
is
has it?
What?
he does, which is arousal by risk of being killed.
But why? I thought he
Instills it upon her. So he is almost like he's aroused by the fact that he might be killing her too. So I think
like
it's
frightening her.
frightening her, scaring her to death. There's an element of like death going on, basically. Like you
That's
could
the scene
die.
in the cave with the water.
Hey Jack, do you want to read something for me?
Whoa, no!
Yeah.
Let me just get that real quick.
I don't like how you just said that big long word that you had to phonetically write in the notes.
Autoassassinophilia?
Because it has ass in it several times.
It has a lot of ass. That is very ass heavy.
It's double ass.
Yeah, it's a lot of
ass
ass.
squared.
She's gripping onto the edge of the pool so tightly, her knuckles are bleached white. But I don't give her reassurances. While I want her to feel safe, I also want her to be scared too. She should be scared. I lean down, replacing my hand with my mouth and trailing wet kisses down to her dripping pussy. Great, here we go. The closer I get, the louder her panting grows. Fuck, you smell so good, I groan before diving my tongue inside her tight hole. Sawyer moans loudly, the sound echoing throughout the cave. Not her vagina cave. The cave. Oh, God, okay. The sound echoing throughout the cave as I begin to eat her cunt with vigor. Enzo, she cries, bucking her hips into me. I slide my tongue down to her clit, circling it persistently until her legs are shaking. Oh, don't stop! She widens her stance and arches her back further to give me a better angle. She'd have to throw herself in the pool to get me away from her. I imagine this hunger I feel for her is no less savage than a starving shark amongst its prey. Quickly, I turn away from her and lay on my back, positioning my head between her thighs. Then I lower her hips until she's sitting on my face. Her spine straightens, now riding my mouth with just as much ferocity while I lap up every drop she has to offer. Her hands cup her breasts, tweaking her hardened nipples while her head kicks back, her cries bleeding into screams. It's the most beautiful sight I've ever seen, enough to bring me to the edge myself. I grab my cock, squeezing tightly until the pain pushes aside the need. Oh my God, Enzo, I'm going to come, she moans. I feel her thighs clenching around my head, and just as she begins to let go, I push her up. Her head snaps down in shock, a ferocious look on her face, an angry goddess here to take what's rightfully hers, with fire in her eyes, blonde curls surrounding her face like a lion's mane, and a snarl curling her lips. Christ, she's magnificent and has me on the precipice of exploding like a fucking pubescent little boy. Nice. Ew, I'd take that out. That's not what I meant.
Hold on. Just wait a second. Let Ashton collect herself.
Before she can curse at me, I'm plunging 2 fingers inside her and curling them deeply. Her mouth drops, those flames brightening into twin suns as she begins to unravel. Now it's your time for revenge, Bella Ladra. I've drowned you once. It's your turn to drown me. Dude, that's a rough callback. Every exhale is a breathless motion, and she pants like she can't get in enough air while I lap at her clit, never removing my eyes from her face. I'm putting firm pressure on her G-spot, feeling her arousal beginning to flood past my hand. Oh my, wait, she gasps, her words senseless and garbled. So overcome with pleasure, her hand slaps the top of my head, and I can't tell if I want to laugh or bite her clit. Ow! But then her cunt is tightening around my fingers and I have to pinch my eyes shut, forcing out thoughts of what it would feel like if she were clenched around my cock instead. She goes silent for 2 heartbeats and then erupts. A loud scream pierces the air and her entire body begins to seize. The moment I retract my fingers, her release is pouring onto me. Quickly, I hook both arms around each thigh and force her back down on my face, opening my mouth wide and drinking from her like a man who's been lost at sea for months. My name is an echo as she thrashes above me while filling my mouth with her cum, trails of it leaking past my lips. I'm groaning into her and I think she's hitting me again, but I'm so far gone in my bliss, so intoxicated by her taste that I hardly notice anything outside of her release sliding down my throat. It feels like her orgasm drags out longer than normal, and by the time she slumps, I'm vibrating with the need to fuck her. "Stop! Oh my God, I can't take anymore," she begs, attempting to pull away. I let her go, but only long enough for me to slide out from beneath her and move her back into the previous position, face above the water and ass in the air. "Wait, don't put me under yet," she breathes, her heavy exhales disturbing the still water. "Let me, I still can't breathe." "Baby, you'll never be able to breathe as long as I'm inside you," I retort. I line up my cock with her entrance and slowly push inside her, no longer able to go another second without her wrapped around me. "Oh fuck," she bites out, moving to sit up. Did I say you could move?" I snap, grabbing the nape of her neck and pushing her back down. "Too much," she chokes, voice strained as I sink myself deeper in her tight warmth. "You can take it, Bella. Let me see your cunt swallow my cock as good as you do with your throat." Her only response is another garbled moan. I bury myself to the hilt and my eyes roll from the utter fucking bliss. "Caso," I rasp, "that's such a good girl, baby." I retreat long and slow, dragging my glistening dick from her warmth, enraptured by how fucking soaked she's making me. Then I drive into her roughly, earning a sharp gasp followed by my name. It almost sounds like an astonishment, and it brings out a savage grin to my face. "You can take it," I assure. "Can you feel how tightly your pussy clings to me, like it never wants to let me go? How deep do you think you can take me before you're begging me to stop?" She gasps when I angle her ass higher, allowing me a better angle to hit her cervix. That's my limit," she squeaks. "Then let me take you to a new limit." Before she can protest, I fist her curls and push her head underwater. She thrashes and I tighten my core to balance myself so I can reach beneath her and strum her clit. She jerks against me and I pull my hips back, only to slam into her again, forming a steady pace while she drowns. Bubbles disturb the surface, but her pussy is tightening around me almost painfully. Pushing her to this dangerous limit is undeniably erotic. Feeling her fight beneath my hold, unable to stop me from draining the life from her, is addicting. What she doesn't realize is that I've always held her life in my hands, and she never knew that she was trusting me to guard it. I pull her head up, and she instinctively inhales deeply, desperately. "Brava, ragazza! You're doing so fucking good," I praise, rolling my hips into her. "I'm so proud of you." She whimpers, mumbling incoherent words, yet her hips push back into me, seeking more from me. Flirting with death is a fucking thrill. "Deep breath, Bella." She listens while I quicken my pace, making it difficult for her to get a good breath in without huffing a moan. "Wait, Enzo," she screams, feeling the narrowing window. I don't let her finish. I'm forcing her head back down, and a flood of bubbles rises to the surface, presumably from her screaming underwater. She'll have less oxygen this time, but I want to fuck her while she feels like she's dying. I circle her clit faster, groaning when her cunt tightens again, her legs quivering as I pick up speed. My cock is thickening, and I'm so close to coming, but I refuse to end this too soon. Just as I begin to lose myself in her sweet pussy, she begins to fight. She's panicking, but I push it a little longer until she bucks wildly against me. I allow her to come up, another choked gasp of breath. I don't relent on my pace, her watery screams somewhere between jumbled protests and high-pitched mewls of encouragement. Do you forgive me, Piccola? I can't, Enzo, I don't. Take a deep breath. This time keep it in, I order. I'm going to keep you under longer, and I don't care how much you fight me. Your pussy gets so tight when you're on the brink of death. Her response is a sob, but she does as I say and inhales as deeply as she can. Relax, Bella. I won't let you drown. I want to show you how good it feels to live. She nods, and her trust only serves to strengthen my obsession with her. The moment her lips clamp shut, I put her back under. I lift one of my knees, planting my foot firmly on the ground for more stability. I'm fucking her hard enough that the sound of our skin slapping and the wet noises her pussy is making are louder than her splashing in the water. Intense pleasure is building in the base of my spine, and her struggling to breathe is only enhancing it. I focus on the water, making sure the bubbles are still consistent, but it seems as if she's trying to keep herself from thrashing. Vibrations are racking every single bone in her body one moment, and the next she goes completely still. And then she's exploding. She's tightening around me until my eyes threaten to cross, and I'm lost in the euphoria. I release her head, allowing her to come up, but I'm oblivious to her when she's nearly convulsing around my cock. Dude.
Thanks, Jack.
I have to say this hit on several things that I love about this book.
Go on.
Excuse me. He speaks Italian quite frequently, and she has no fucking idea what he's saying. And thank you, Kindle Unlimited, for just allowing you to highlight the word. And then it shows you what the translation is if you read on Kindle Unlimited, not in the book like Rachel does.
No, it's on the bottom of the book.
So if you get the
Oh, it's on
printed,
the bottom
if
of the
you get
book?
the printed version of this
Yeah,
book,
it's like a little footnote.
there are footnotes on the bottom of this book
Oh.
that tell you what the translation is. And there's also, in the back of the book, there's a glossary.
Oh, yeah, that's in the back of the Kindle.
Okay,
too.
there's a glossary that tells you what all those things mean.
Anyway, I love that he calls her beautiful liar.
Yeah, that's what he calls her. Bella
Larda.
Larda? Yeah,
Yeah.
it means beautiful liar.
And it's fucking amazing. And
Or
like,
sorry, it means beautiful thief.
beautiful thief.
Yeah,
Sorry. Thief, liar, whatever.
same thing.
Yeah, that's probably one of my favorite things about the book. I
He
really like Enzo.
Enzo is obsessed with making her squirt.
Yeah. Yeah, he is.
Can I just say?
Yes, go on.
Say.
I feel like we should have a trigger warning before I read that. Because I was not expecting that.
Which part?
Her being basically raped, killed.
She's fine. She was into it. That's
she
the,
wasn't, though.
That's the auto assassinophilia.
That's him. She doesn't have that. She's not excited by almost being killed. He's excited by almost
What?
killing her.
So what you didn't read was earlier on, she agreed to this. This wasn't something like they had the conversation, right? Before he actually does it the second time.
Yes. So the way that this is set up before that is he's talking about, he's apologizing for what he had done before to her. And they discuss like, we're going to make a new memory that will override this horrible thing that I did to you, basically. And so this is a replay of what Ashton mentioned on the boat earlier, where he like bit her lip
Johnny's.
and with the sharks. So this is kind of a replay of that, except it's consensual this time.
Yeah. So she did consent to that.
Yep.
You just didn't read her consenting to that.
Yeah, that was long as it was, and it's like this is a very, very wordy book. I'll find.
Well, in the note, that was one of the reviews that was mentioned, but I guess we'll just talk that a little bit. That was unnecessarily repetitive.
It was very repetitive.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was,
So I have a question then.
Another one.
If that's like consent, it was they talked about it beforehand, but when she's saying no,
no means yes sometimes.
right?
That's why people have safe words.
But did they have a safe word,
Oh, I don't remember.
I can't remember.
or are we just assuming that they had one?
I want to say that there's some
I
occasions.
don't think they did.
I don't think they did, but I think there are some occasions where it's like one of those tap my leg sort of situations. If you want to stop. Yeah, I know. I'm racking my brain on that one.
I can't say with any certainty, but knowing like their relationship, I think it's one of those things is like he expects her or she expresses trust in him to take her that far and keep her safe is kind of like the implication that's in the book, I think.
This is again why like it's tiptoeing that dark romance kind of thing where it's like I feel like a lot of the situation is him telling her what's going to happen. And then she just doesn't disagree with it.
Yeah.
Which is the dubious consent kind of thing. So they don't like, yeah. I mean, this is the thing about when I say chuck your feminism at the door. This is what I mean.
Right.
Where like, this is hot as fuck, but they didn't necessarily have that open, honest communication you should have.
It's not a healthy read.
No,
like,
God, no.
There are some dark romances that deal with trauma and differing things, and they deal with it in a manner that is supportive of the trauma or like the process of dealing with the trauma. This is not one of those books. This is
absolutely not one of those books.
This is just one of those like bad things happen and we're going to make the best of the bad situation, but I'm not going to deal with my trauma through the process. Though I guess I almost feel like Sawyer dealt with her trauma, but he didn't.
So the way this book progresses, Sylvester ends up getting outed as a huge piece of shit. Surprise.
And Enzo tries to murder him.
Yeah, Enzo tries to murder him. It turns out that he was keeping one of his daughters captive, and that was the ghost sounds that they were hearing.
It goes through this whole like twisty thing where like Enzo tries to shoot him, and then he runs away, and then they're trying to find the lighthouse beacon, and they don't realize that there's actually somebody else in the thing, and there's like secret rooms and all of this shit, and they go up and they find the beacon.
They do end up finding the beacon because the daughter leaves the bookcase door open a crack.
Well, they don't know it's the daughter at this point. It's just there's the bookcase door is open, and I think they thought it was Sylvester. So they go up the stairs. And she's like outside and comes in.
She's up in the top and then climbs down the ladder, goes around the outside. Yeah. And so they can see her.
And she's like emaciated.
Yeah, Sylvester had sewn her.
Big word.
You did it. I'm so proud of you, girl. You're such a good girl. So Sylvester had sewn her mouth shut.
Cut her tongue off first.
And then sewed her mouth shut because she had been trying to yell at people to be freed.
So his wife, did he kill his wife?
Killed his wife.
He killed his wife, but his daughter
committed suicide.
Daughter committed suicide. He killed his wife, and then
This is his second daughter.
So he kept her.
Casey. Her name is Casey.
Yes, because that's important. No, it is.
It actually is.
It actually is.
I thought you were like, oh, well, he killed his wife and blah, blah, blah. And I guess his daughter's name's important.
No, it actually is.
Yeah, because his two daughters are Trinity and Casey, and Trinity had quote unquote committed suicide, which she could or could not have, who knows. And Casey is the one who survived.
Yes.
And so the way this all rolls out is that like there's a big fight, obviously. Enzo like almost burns the place to the ground trying to escape.
Oh yeah.
He ends up fucking killing Sylvester in quite a way.
He bashes his
it's not for the faint of heart.
Burnt thingy.
Yes.
Bad things, guys.
Bad things. I'm not going to explain it. It's very graphic.
I feel like that's the part I should have read.
No. Hard pass. And then it ends up that Sylvester was going to shoot Enzo, and Casey pushed him aside and took the bullet and ended up killing her instead. And so Sylvester ended up killing his daughter. Enzo ended up killing Sylvester. They end up getting a hold of somebody through the radio that was at the beacon, and they get rescued. Surprise. So this book ends up it is actually a happy ever after book, which is wild for kind of a dark romance, but it's like everything tied up, all the loose ends. They end up I don't know if you remember this, Ash, it's like very nuanced at the end of the book. Sawyer actually steals Trinity's identity.
Yes.
The last identity she ever steals, which is
Trinity, Casey, didn't she?
No, Trinity, because she was the one that killed herself because they had the corpse of Casey. So they didn't want to pretend that she was a dead person who's already there.
Right. Yeah,
so she pretended to be her sister. And anyway, but then she also ended up killing herself off in that she left a letter saying that she killed herself. And so she basically swapped places with Trinity.
So she could have a life with Enzo.
So that she could actually go home and live her life and whatever.
And fuck in a shark cage.
Told you she didn't want to be herself.
She didn't want to go to jail because she killed her brother. That's what she didn't want.
Okay, so in the letter that she wrote, that she left as kind of her suicide note, that quote unquote like new Trinity, which is actually Sawyer, gave to the police, stated in it the abuse that her brother had done to her. And they took that and put it into evidence. And it turned out that he had been abusing other women, and they all came forward after he was killed. And so it turns out that she could have actually potentially gone home and lived her life, but she would have had to go to trial and all these other things. And it just worked out better this way that she could
So
stay.
what Jacqueline's saying is she didn't want to be herself, so she chose not to be herself. Turns out to be accurate after all.
I mean, it very well could be. Here's the thing. At the end of the day, it brought her to Enzo, and they're in love, and they love each other.
And he makes her squirt like a
he
motherfucking
makes her squirt
fountain.
everywhere. Eventually, gonna have babies and
Oh yeah, they
whatever.
do talk about that.
They do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he likes sharks.
And that's the thing. So, on that note of liking sharks, how many sharks do you want to rate this book? Out of like,
We're rating sharks? I thought
So
we could
this
rate
is-
Bubbles, breath.
I think we should do sharks. So, at the end of this book, they're in a shark cage doing it. It's the epilogue surprise.
Yeah, shocking.
So there's like 4 sharks. Let's rate it out of 4 sharks. How many sharks do you want?
None of these sharks are pregnant, and all of them have all of their body parts. Before you ask.
We're not having half sharks. There's no half measures, half sharks here. Okay, so there's not going to be any half sharks.
None
We're
of them
gonna
have
go,
ears.
We're going to go full sharks only. So out of 4. Rachel is giving this book 2 sharks out of 4. Because it was fine, is what I'll say, and that's exactly it. Ash, what do you think?
My brain went 2.5.
You can't have 0.5 sharks.
I know that.
Okay, you can have 2 sharks and a bucket of chum.
That's I rated 2
Aw,
by 2
she
sharks
stole my joke.
I could see it
and
in
a
your
bucket
eyes.
of chummy.
I could see it in your eyes. You were gonna throw a bucket of chum in there.
Yep, 2 sharks and a bucket of chum. You know what? No, I'll give it 3 sharks. I found this book entertaining. If you look at it for what it is, it's great. I liked it better than the Haunting and Hunting Adeline, which makes me apparently the opposite of most people. But
Yeah, I will say a lot of the people on the reviews on this for Goodreads, they read Haunting Adeline and Hunting Adeline, and preferred that over this book.
See, I preferred this book.
Yeah,
I
Fair.
found the character development better in this book, minus the fact that Sawyer is kind of a cardboard cutout sometimes.
she's a
but,
weird
like,
character. She definitely like resolved herself at the end.
I personally found the end resolve to be like, and how do I fix this? Do you know what I mean? I was looking like it felt like the obvious answer.
Yeah, everything kind of worked out.
Yeah, which like considering all like the twists and turns and stuff that the book itself took, it was like, and this is how it ended.
Yeah, so like, and this is the thing. One of the notes I wrote down here was, we're just here for Enzo. I'm sorry, Sawyer.
I mean, that's for multiple reasons.
Yeah.
Sawyer's daddy.
characters in general.
Not Sawyer's daddy. Enzo is daddy.
Enzo is daddy.
Sawyer just got boned by daddy.
Jack, how many sharks and buckets of chum potentially would you like to rate this, given the lovely piece of chapter you read?
Ooh, I think I'm gonna give it.
You can give it just chum if you want. That's fine.
I'm rating this Does It Hurt book by H.D. Carlton. 1 emaciated shark on
Casey
a
shark.
feeding tube. A Casey shark, if you will, Ashton, out of 4 sharks.
Thanks, Jack. I really appreciate your incredibly thorough rating on that book.
Her rating system is basically what we do this podcast for.
Yeah, that's fine. That's why we're here. We're here for a good time.
Well, you guys make me read the dirty stuff, so I should get to have a little fun, and I don't get the notes, so...
This is the retaliation we get for not giving Jack the notes. We deserve it. So I'd like to say thank you guys for joining me. Next week, in 2 weeks, because this is a fortnight podcast, we are going to be reading 2 books. It's part of a duology. They're very short. It's called Fairy Daddy, and the second book is called Revved Up.
All revved up.
All Revved Up. So those 2 books we're going to read next week are by Amy Bellows, if you want to look it up. They are both on Kindle Unlimited. You can buy a physical copy of Fairy Daddy, but not All Revved Up just yet. I don't think it's out. So I want to say thank you for joining us on the Queens of Spice podcast. I'll see you guys in like 2 weeks for the next one.
Thanks for having us in my house.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening to the Queens of Spice podcast. You'll find us on Instagram and Twitter at Queens of Spice, Or if you want to send us an email, you can reach us at queensofspice@gmail.com.